What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fab, Freddie Fox, America's big brother, and we back with the Saturday Night Sit Down.
What's going on, world? FNX, Saturday Night Sit Down. I'm here. We vibing. Let's have a good time.
We ready, man. Yeah. So we're here with a special edition, a Friday edition of the Saturday Night Sit Down. I'm here with my boy FNX, man. How you doing, my man?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I am blessed, man. Thank you. I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you for giving me this time.
Oh, of course. It's dope to hear that, you're definitely aware of the work. It's always appreciated when it's someone who knows the culture, definitely supports it. So thanks for the love, and I'm happy to be here. Let's chop it up.
Yeah, definitely, man. So let's give it back, because I could give everybody how I got to know you and came across you. So I was getting my son's haircut with my boy Joel Figueroa, Joel the Barber, and
shout out to Joel.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So he been listening to my podcast. He's a loyal listener, man. So I appreciate you. I'm gonna get him on here soon. But he knows what I'm doing. Everything about here. He said, Joe, man, you heard about FNX? I'm like, who that? And he's like, just do that in Norwalk, man. He probably be good for your show. So I was like, all right, send me his info. I'm gonna reach out to him, see what's up. So I did that, I reached out to you a couple times. I know we couldn't meet up earlier. It was just things with scheduling, stuff like that, but we finally locked it down. But in the meantime, I was like, let me hear what this dude's about, man. So I started listening to your tracks, and it's just been hit after hit after hit, man. And it's just straight fire, man. And everything that I love is I love your sound. I love your flow.
Thank you.
But mostly I love the poetry, the lyrics, how you put things together and stuff like that, and tell stories, because that's a lost art. You know what I mean? It's a very lost art. So
It is. And, we were talking about it earlier, right? Like Nas.
Yeah.
When you think about like the elite MCs, and Nas is probably like the elite of the elite, right? He had the ability to, 3 bars in, just put you there. So when I think about, the bar, right, that the OGs have set, I'm definitely trying to be in that space where, creating visuals, telling stories, but not just telling any stories that resonate with people, stories that talk about pain, because everyone deals with their own version of it, stories that talk about thriving through it, right, not just ones where they hold you down, but stories where you overcome it. All that's a part of, the repertoire. So I appreciate you listening, cuz.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. So and the more I listened, the more I knew how well you fit for my show. You know what I mean? And how this conversation, because as I tell everybody, the whole purpose is really reaching out to the younger generation, trying to help people who struggle finding their way into manhood, into adulthood, right. Going through all those pains, and letting them know that, you're not alone. There's other people who've gone through battles, who've gone through different things. And just by creating that dialogue like we're doing right now, you'll be able to hear those stories and maybe get tips that'll help you improve your lifestyle, improve what you're doing, and get you out of the situation that you've been in. Because, and I say this all the time, man, we're not going to go through every single situation life have to offer, right? And one of this real powerful quote that I've learned, and it says, although it's good to learn from your mistake, it's better to learn from the mistakes from others.
Of course.
And that's the whole purpose of this. We're sitting down, having a conversation, and find out what we're going through and the ups and downs. And before I get into that, because I really just want to talk about this song, because I've been bumping it on the way here. But one of the songs that I listened to that really made me, open up my eyes to what you're about and how you are, and again, how much you relate to the show, was Barely Made It Through. Right. Which is, again, is about struggle, you know what I mean? Like you said, I grew up poor and I barely made it through. Absolutely. I've been through hell and I barely made it through. Absolutely. And it takes a big man to admit that, because we're always taught and trained and programmed like, you don't feel no pain, you know what I'm saying? You got to be a man, stand up, don't admit your flaws. Mm-hmm. None of that.
Hold that. Hold that, get over it.
Yeah. So it's great to see somebody, in your field doing that. And hey, you know what? I went through problems. I went through things. And one of the things in there that you talked about, battling depression, right? And going through that. And also you also said, I've been through hell and I celebrate it. Right. So before I even get into the questions for that, man, what was the depression you were going through during that time, and then how did you overcome that?
Everyone has a personal journey that's built to test them, right?
Right.
So in its infancy, sometimes you don't realize that it's a test, right? We just realize that it's hard. Mm-hmm. And, so growing up a kid that was displaced, you know what I'm saying? We battled things that people in our demographic or race demographic deal with as a result of poverty, as a result of, PTSD and unresolved trauma in the black family. So me and my mother and my sister, we moved around a lot. I was in a bunch of different schools. I was, excuse me, constantly the new kid, There was times we was broke, right? Like all those things come into play, right? And while you was going through it, was like, yo, what's the point of this? The game is rigged, right?
Yeah.
I can't control, the system that I'm born into. I didn't even know I was really broke till people started telling you was broke, right? And, we started placing value into certain material things. So like, oh, this nigga got Jordans, and this dude got that. He don't got that. Like those sort of things, as they occurred, were minuscule, but it started to allude to the story. It's like, damn, everywhere I turn, you know what I'm saying, I'm not really getting a fair shake. What's the point of this, right? And, we all know the game is rigged. That's the job, right? So once you get out of that point of infancy where you realize that, hey, listen, life is hard because that's the point of it. It's supposed to be hard.
Right.
It's supposed to test your moral character. You're supposed to be put in positions where you have to grow. And Daddy's Baby, I'm talking about rain helping the flower grow, right? You have to go through things and you have to be stretched and you have to be tested in order for you to be who you were. So as I was going through, I didn't understand that. And that lack of understanding, led to me feeling isolated, and some of the things I probably went through, I see crazier shit, right? Excuse my French, so I can't even get mad about, any experience I had about sleeping in the shelter. You know what I'm saying? Or listen, when you're the new kid, listen, you either got to be funny, fight, or be good at sports. Sometimes you got to be all three, or sometimes you just got to handle yours, right? These are all experiences kids go through. Why they don't trust people and shit like that, and how they respond to relationships when they get older, because of how they, were groomed, right? So you have to get to a point where you realize that, whatever happened, and that was to make me who I am. And when I started realizing the community work and the compass that kept me in the right space, I started to realize my value and say, you know what, those things will make me strong now. I did not know that while I was going through it. And at the time, I'm probably, crying to God, like, why? What's the point? What's the point? What's the point? Why aren't you answering me? Why am I going through this? Why are you showing me this? Why am I coming home and all my shit is outside? Right? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you trying to show me through this lesson? And then one day it makes sense. And when it started to make sense, my energy around it, the depression, right, started to alleviate. And it also comes with lifestyle too, man. You got to eat, sleep, and rehabilitate yourself correctly in order for you to have emotional and spiritual wellness.
Absolutely.
Those are things that I had to learn along the way to even put me in the position to be the best version of myself. So it's not even about my human experience. It's about the human experience.
Yeah.
And what you go through may be extremely impactful for you, right? We don't know how people deal with pain.
Absolutely.
We could deal with the same thing. It may hit you harder.
Right.
You don't know what people emotionally have to lift to get through, to deal with just every day-to-day thing. So I try to relate to that. And if anyone's ever been through their personal journey where they've been tested and they've cried about it, they've prayed to God about it, and then sometimes the prayer don't get answered and you get angry about, like, if you're going through that cycle, you realize that's a healing process.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of the biggest things, like I always say, man, and I say this all the time, man. And I don't know if it was by Mother Teresa or not. I mean, that's what I've heard the quote was, but it goes, God will never give me more than I can handle. I just wish he ain't trust me so much. You know what I mean? And that's the thing is that it's that even the late great DMX said that, you know what I mean? Like, you got to find a lesson in everything. There's a lesson in everything you go through. Right. You know what I mean? You just got to be smart enough to look for it and learn from that experience. You know what I mean? It's not, like you said, it's not to put you down or to break you or anything like that. It's to, you're capable of getting through this. You know what I'm saying? You're going to find the answer. I trust you enough to figure it out. You know what I mean? That's why I'm giving you these challenges and these tasks. So I just wanted to get into that real quick because again, it's such a beautiful song, man. I love that track. So if you guys out there listening, man, look it up, man. It's barely made it through. It's a very, very beautiful song.
Peace to Kenny Cash, man. Kenny Cash was the producer. Shout out to the Factory Underground. Kenny Cash has done a lot of blessed me a lot over the careers with just great, not just support producer wise, but just creativity wise, right? So we went in there and we played with sounds and made that right there. Organically, built that from scratch. And so That's always the best type of music, I think.
Absolutely, yes, it is. Because you can say, man, like it's you feel your energy in it, right? It's not just a song. There's more weight to it. You know what I mean? Like you went through that stuff. You can relate, and people could understand, can hear that through the lyrics, through how it was put together, man. So it was a very, very beautiful song, and I was again jamming that actually on the way down here, man. To sit with you, but it's stuff like that again. The whole reason for this whole podcast and sitting down and having these conversations. So my first question when it comes down to this, right, to you, what do you think are some of the main characteristics or qualities it takes to be a good person or a good man?
I mean, one, protecting your family. I think that's essential. You know, that's something that has to be culturally instilled in you. You know, but that is the core of who we are as people. You know, even lions' prides protect each other. Mm-hmm. You know, us at our most tribal form, right? Regionally, you can go back centuries, right? We always protected each other. There has to be that sense of family. And then I think you have to extend that sense of family to helping those less fortunate than you are, excuse me. You know, so which is why the FNX Foundation raises awareness for child hunger, right? 1 out of 6 children in the state of Connecticut are food insecure. That's a fact. You know, so these children are expected to go to school and perform at the same conditions that their peers are when they're at a disadvantage. Besides not eating, maybe possibly dealing with other things that are making them grow up way too fast, right? Yeah. You know, expecting them to be emotionally tuned in. And then they're testing, and then they're making decisions about their future based on their testing. So they are systematically set up. I don't want to say for failure, but they're systematically set up to struggle more than others, you know, and not that we can solve that problem. Hopefully we can, but we could definitely raise awareness for it. So we raise resources and we take money and go buy food for people. And when I first started it, you know, I sort of had questions, right? So like the first year we did it, right? Interesting story. So the FDA says that it takes $240 to feed a family of 4, right? 2 parents, 2 children. So the first year I decided I wanted to raise food for Christmas. It was like $1,000 I raised. I'm like, okay, I'm going to, you know, feed 4 families, whatever. But I'm like, yo, what is really spending for that $240, right? So we ended up raising $1,500, and then I did like a couple open mics, you know, Hometown Love open mics. Shout out to Murphy's Law. Shout out to the Factory Underground. A bunch of different venues. If I forgot you, I'm sorry. But ultimately, we did some crowdfunding for resources and food, and we helped over 35 families.
Nice.
With over 2 weeks worth of food, you know, and I know that, you know, first and foremost, my stepfather was Bajan, grew up in the West Indian household, right? So rice goes a long way. Buying people 5-pound bags of rice go a long way. A 5-pound bag of flour go a long way, you know? Asking for certain unexpired, non-perishable goods.
Right.
Help supplement the fact that we were able to go into Stop and Shops, you know, and say, hey, this is what we're doing. And purchase things that they necessarily can't get at a shelter as well, or a food pantry. Because when they go to a food pantry, they're getting everything canned and boxed. Yeah. Which also leads to other issues that we deal with health-wise, which is another systematic thing. So one of the things that the FNX Foundation tries to do is that when we do go shopping, fresh fruits and vegetables, we try to take advantage of. A bag of apples, a bag of oranges, you know, things that are obviously already prepackaged I can't touch, but I'm bagging it up and we dropping it off. And it took a lot of energy, you know, me and a couple core friends. It took a lot of energy. A couple things occurred that first time we did it. One, we ended up helping one of my boys' family members. He didn't even know they was going through it. So you don't even know what people be going through.
Right. Because it goes back to that too, man. We got to, like you said, hold out. We can't talk about it. We can't, you know what I mean, express ourselves. But it's just important, like you said too, you know what I mean, taking care of your family and those around you. Like I'm so grateful. I grew up in Stanford, right, on Con Ave, and it was just such it's a community within itself, man. Which I'm a firm believer too. It takes a village. You know what I'm saying? And that saying, it does take a village. You know, because there's so many people who could impact your life in so many different ways around you, and just being there, and that like extends to me how I am as a person as well. You know what I mean? Like Any child that comes in my vicinity, they're automatically my responsibility, whether I know you or not. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like you my responsibility. You close enough to me, I gotta look out for you now. You know what I mean? And that's part, like I said, I think another thing that you know, wanted me to get you on the show is seeing what you've done, because I had OGs like that do that for me. I was 2 weeks ago, I had a Caviar on my show. He was from the House of Reps over at Stanford. And he was just one of those OGs too. You know what I mean? Like hip hop artists who let us see that there's life outside the hood. You know what I mean? That you can go out there and do stuff. You can't let your situation define you.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can learn from it, but don't let it define you and you fall into that stigma, and gave us that hope and looked out for all the young ones, you know what I'm saying? Like, gave us money to go to the store. We had good grades, make sure that we stayed in school, got involved in sports, and, stayed on the right path. Right. And it's, people like you doing that again back to your community and giving back to them, which is an amazing thing that goes a long way with everything that you're doing.
I want to tell you the other thing that happened that first year. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go.
So not only do we help one of my boys, family members who needed it, black people, white people, Spanish people, rich neighborhoods, poor neighborhoods, some people with big-ass houses that were really going through it. I'm pulling up, and it's like, hey, listen, thank you. No one knows it's been hard. So-and-so, some scenario, lost their job, and we're going through this, and it's just so hard, and thank you, right? I realized that pain knows no color, right? Right? Like, so, I knew that, but I didn't see it until I started doing it. It wasn't tangible until I started seeing, English, speaking English or not, Spanish, Creole, whatever, right? Pain is pain, hunger is hunger, struggle is struggle. So that was one. And the big one was we showed up to a house in New Haven, and the mama just overdosed. And the father was in the house with like 8 kids. And it was cold in there, bro. Wow. And we dropped off a bunch of food, right? We dropped off like 2 weeks worth. They probably got the most. That wasn't even about design. That was just God doing it because they needed it. That was like the last stop. And I was just like, damn, what happens when that runs out? Right? I started thinking to myself, like, it took like a Herculean effort, to get to this point. Like why? And I'm an overthinker. That also leads to like you feeling like things are too big, right? Depression, anxiety, and stuff like that when you start to overthink. So I'm like, yo, what happens, at this point when I don't do this, right? Am I even helping, right? Like, what's the point? What's the point? And then, God told me not to worry about that, just to do my part, right? And I was thinking about it, and talking to my mother, right? And this is where it's important to have a relationship with your elders. Talking to my mother about, I was telling her about how I was struggling with it, right? And how I was like, I just feel like this is something I should do, and God's telling me not to worry about it. But my mom was like, listen, you don't know how far hope can go, right? You have no idea what that may do at that time or how God is using you in that moment, and then not question it. And then after that, we just never looked back. And then we've incorporated into a 501c3. We raised some money last year. We started partnering with churches in the area. One church in Bloomfield was getting boxes of food from the USDA. And shout out to my frat brother. I should have had the church's name. I apologize, brother. I'm going to shout them out, though. Right? I'm slipping.
We'll tag them in this. We'll tag them
in this, man. We'll tag them in this because without them, this spring wouldn't have been what it was. We were able to get some of their boxes of USDA boxes of food, 22-pound boxes of milk, fruit, vegetables, maybe some sausages or meatballs, whatever, right? Whether you ate it or not, it was still there. We picked up like 500 boxes from them. Wow. And delivered that, to Bridgeport, Norwalk, and Stanford, in addition to going shopping, So God has been making a way every single time. Every single time I've done this, God is making a way. He's making a way as we're doing it now. So when you say to me, why do I do what I do and what helps with like depression, right? And I don't even want to mention it like that because I don't want to speak it into existence. But the reality is people deal with the weight of expectation for themselves and the universe and the progress they may or may not be making, or the material things that other people may have and they don't, or just the struggles that they may see. There's so much that goes into that it could weigh on people, right? And what got me through, or what continues to get me through, right? What continues to serve me as I go through this lifelong journey of wellness is the community, the feeling that I get when I find a way to help people. I refill my cup.
Yeah.
And anytime I've gotten away from being who I am in regards to being in the community is when I struggled the most with my depression. I've had the most challenges just like functioning. And listen, I'm educated. I got degrees. You know what I'm saying? I have accolades to where some people will be like, yo, listen, man, knowing where you come from, that's a great job. You should be proud, right? So it's not like I'm someone that It's not like I'm someone that hasn't found some version of success that some people call it. I don't call it that. But you know what I call success? Providing that hope and care for people. That's success. When you find that person that's going through it and you touch them in a way that it moves them to the next step, right, of this journey that we call life. I think that's success. I think when you find a way to win this game, like Kevin Hart was talking about it, right, on the Breakfast Club, not to plug anyone else's joint, right, but it was a great conversation. He was like, life is a game, which I truly do believe. And the goal is to find success in the game. And we may weigh success in different manners, but when you find success and you help other people get to success, that seems like a greater level of success to me, because it's not just about me. If I help you get to where you got to go while I'm doing it, and then you help 2 people, by proxy, I may have helped 3 people. And then those people that you've helped go and help someone else. And then the tide is raising all ships. That's really the energy that I work with.
And that's huge, man. And that's what I teach my kids with my daughter. You know what I mean? And my daughter's 6. My son is 3. He's about to be 3 in April. But my number one goal for that is for them to be good people. I've always said that for like longest to myself, is that I know that I'm a genuine good person, man. And I love people. I love to spread love and kindness. And like you said, I love helping out people whenever I can, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? If it's a few bucks here, a little help over there. Like I always say, like I help people out of selfish reasons because it makes me feel so good knowing that I was able to help somebody. You know what I mean? Like, and knowing that that's going to live on somebody else and they're going to pass that on and help somebody else and go on down the line. And that's the whole point of that's how we win in this game of life.
Of course.
You know what I mean? It's by helping out everybody and doing what we can. And that's what I instill with my daughter, like trying to teach her that when it comes to those important morals of being a good person. So for you, what do you see some of your big or your main morals that you live on a day-to-day basis?
I mean, I tell my babies to be kind and keep God with them. Like, both things are equally important. I definitely want you to, be kind to people. And I always want you to bring God with you everywhere you go. And if you can't bring him, you ain't supposed to be there. That's the compass, right? I've learned that the hard way, right? That's what I want to instill in my babies. And that's what I want to instill in anybody's babies, right? Not just my children, right? I've had the opportunity to go and do motivational speaking, in schools, elementary schools, in high schools, teaching financial literacy, and, just sharing my story, right? Being a poor kid, fat kid, broke kid, all 3, right? These are experiences that kids go through, right? And when they're going through it, everything you go through as a kid seems like it's so serious, right?
Yeah.
Right?
It's the end of the world.
So me knowing that and me knowing how they're emotionally weighted, I'm in there to tell them that, first off, life is more than what you're born into, and when I started doing that, I didn't know how them vibrating at a different emotional energy, them receiving it, would make me feel. Again, it's like God has put me on this path to keep me guarded, right? Like he knows, right, who I am, how I could get, and what needs to happen. And every single time that, I've had to make progress, he's made sure that I've had, my family and the community right there to keep me grounded. So that's the only reason why we're continuing to do what I'm doing and what I'm always going to do until I can no longer do it, is build and help people. And I feel like, keeping God with me during that process, we can't lose. It's impossible to lose. Right. Soon the FNX Foundation is closing on helping 1,000 families. Eventually it's going to get to the point where, I want to see programming, like government programming, like grant money, for programs that provide children the experience of gardening, growing things in the house, that can help combat this hunger epidemic, but not only combat it with things that are healthy for them.
Right.
Teaching them earth science, teaching them actual tangible things. I think that is a phenomenal idea, and I've seen so many different developments in urban gardening, and if I had a magic wand, I would absolutely be like, boom, let's do this program to teach these kids how to grow basic vegetables for themselves. Tomatoes, squash, grow your ginger root, whatever. Show them earth science, help them understand why we have to cultivate the soil. Because not only will it serve us well, it's one of the deepest and holiest sciences there have ever been. When you think about it at a big macro scale, from the moment man was eating out the dirt, we've had to farm. And we've gotten disconnected, from that, And I'm sounding like a foreigner, no, but my grandmother's an amazing gardener, right?
Yeah, my mom had a garden too, man. She used to grow
okay,
in
so
the front yard and all that stuff, man. So I've seen that and growing her own things, and And it is important because
Shout to Nana. I love you, Nana. Shout to Nana.
you know, like I say, man, you know, teach a man to fish and leave forever. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing that we got to do is teach them and like you said, healthy ways and good ways so they can do for themselves. You know what I mean? They can really take care of themselves. And everything you was talking about, you know, is being a real good role model. I seen that, you know what I mean, giving back to the community and all that stuff, and being that figure. Now, I know a lot of young kids didn't grow up with their fathers, you know what I mean, for one reason or the other, and I've seen that through a lot of my friends and people in our communities, you know what I'm saying, and we see that constantly. So for you, I know you mentioned your stepfather, but what was your relationship with your dad like growing up?
You know, it was a complex situation because my mother and my father weren't together. Like, I didn't see them. I can't remember seeing them together until I like graduated college. Right, like literally seeing them in the same place at the same time. You know, so my mother got married and we moved, and you know, we had spent some time in Massachusetts, Springfield. We had moved to Barbados. You know, we've been to South Carolina. We've been to Georgia. You know, so I wasn't around him. So while my mother going through her divorce, us going through transition, being displaced in the shelter, things like that, I wasn't around my father. He was in another state. Now, eventually, you know, they came and got me, right? And, you know, and I got some stability to get through high school, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it was a thing where, you know, there were certain experiences me and him didn't share in the beginning. He didn't teach me how to ride a bike. He didn't teach me how to tie a tie. He didn't teach me how to throw a football. You know, he was present, you know, when we spoke, but I didn't have that physical interaction with him, right? But when we got older, you know, it was when I got a chance to, like, grow into my manhood with him. You know, and have conversations about what I'm dealing with, you know, me getting married, me thinking about my wife, right? And, you know, situations that you deal with in the family, how I should respond, being black on the job, right? As I got older, like, he was in my corner, you know? And so, you know, some things we probably missed out on, but at the end of the day, like, you know, we got to a space where, you know, I needed that from him, you know, and every child needs that. Yeah. You know, so, right? Sometimes my father would tell me, like, yo, listen, B, you got to get over that. Straight up, it's tough. You gotta get over that, right? That has to come from a dad sometimes, you know. And I'm blessed the way that it's unfolded, you know. I also know though that when we think about our communities and the breakup of the nuclear family, you know, there's a lot of fragmented stories like that. You know, some are way worse.
Yeah.
You know, some people have both their parents in the household the entire time. That's what I'm aspiring for. You know, to make sure that my children have that foundation so they can see what healthy stability is like, you know. But even thinking about, like, getting to that space, I didn't really grow up witnessing a healthy marriage, right? My mother and my stepfather was warring, right? Like, police at the crib all the time type shit. So even me getting to the point where, you know, came time to choose a spouse, I'm like, hold on, this niggas like getting married? I don't know, B, right? Because it seemed kind of crazy to me, right? You know, and that's when my father came into play. Like, listen, man, you can't judge, you know, everything in life based off some of the things that you experience. Like, again, this is where dads come in. Yeah. And that's why they're essential, because we go through these things in life and sometimes they become so micro to us. We get so isolated. And, you know, we don't know what we don't know. We're growing. We're youthful, right? You need leadership. You need elders. So I'm blessed to say that, you know, my father's been in my corner, you know, since we've had the opportunity to.
And since you had the opportunity, him being in your corner, stuff like that, what do you think has been the biggest thing you've learned from him?
I mean, just like that, man. You know, first off, some things ain't gonna be easy. You gotta get over it. You know, that's huge, right? Because at the end of the day, we all feel like we go through situations where we get a raw deal.
Right.
Everyone experiences that. We can sit here and talk about, well, my raw deal was worse than your raw deal, and we can compare raw deals. Like, we can go through that, but that's not the point. The goal is that part of the human experience we all deal with, right? But knowing that, you just gonna have to deal with it. That's part of the job, right? You know, anything worth having is not easy. So to get to where you want to go, you have to push through those things. Absolutely. So it's essential. Like, you know, I feel like it would be the same way if, like, he was coaching me through sports, or anyone that's coached their son through sports, and someone, you know, or not son, just child, you know, through athletics, and, you know, the child gets tired and they want to pull up, or they're not giving full effort, and he pulls to a side, like, you know, stop bullshitting this. Right, this is where you earn it. You don't earn it when it's game time. You earn it now. You know, keep your ass going. Right. I feel like that's what dads are for. You know, I feel like that's what dads are for. So, that's the type of father, I aspire to be. That's the type of father I would expect anyone in my circle to be. It's to the point where if you ain't a good dad, you can't even be around me. Yo, and it's like,
what's wild, man. I was thinking recently. This is a story that I wanted to share, and I just didn't know when I was going to get the opportunity. But you brought up a good point about, like, you're saying that the type of people you have in your circle and all those things. Growing up, I said, I had a real core group of boys. I was always hanging out with each other and stuff like that. And one of them, he got this girl pregnant, and we didn't know she was pregnant literally till like a month before she gave birth. And we found out it was his kid and stuff like that. So again, all my other friends, they don't have their dad in life, and we all was like, yeah, we there. You know what I'm saying? So, she's going into labor, and we all go to the hospital, right? We there. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, our little nephew about to be born, right? And he's nowhere to be found. He's nowhere to be found. Now, granted, they weren't together, whatever they had is, but this is your son. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got a kid coming into this world. So he's nowhere to be found. And we calling him on his cell phone. We're like, yo, man, like, your baby being like, dude, where you at? Like, what are you doing? We find him at the Boys and Girls at the YMCA playing basketball. And we all go down there with her, I think it was her mom, all of us go down, like, bro, we need to get you to the hospital, like, get your son being born, man. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna come right there, I'm gonna be there. So it was like, all right, so we left back to the hospital to be there, and he still don't show up. He leave with his girl at the time to go somewhere else or whatever, and he left. So we pulled up at his crib, and he was like, yo, dude, really? Like, you missed your child's birth, bro. Like, why? There's no excuse, no reason, no female, no. Forget about everybody else. This is your legacy coming. Like, this is your son. Like, what are you doing? And after that day, it was like, yo, we just cut him off. Like, we can't. I cannot be around somebody like this. Like, it's
bad energy, man.
Yeah, and I feel so bad for that. You know what I mean? Luckily, this kid, I mean, his mom and her family, I mean, they did a wonderful job raising this man. You know what I mean? He's got, a great support system around him. You know what I mean? I sucks I had to grow up without his dad, but I think it was better that way because he wasn't no good. You know what I mean? Like, and seeing it from that. Right. And that's like I said, like we trying to break that curses and stuff like that, and break that. And that's the type of that I
can't be accepted from the tribe, cuz.
No, you can't.
Right, we can't allow
like, that. That's not what we about. You know what I mean? Like I can't. I have to be there for my daughter and my son. You know what I'm saying? Like that was my goal when I had kids. Like I need to be there for them 24/7. They need to have their dad around to see me there as much as possible. And like I said that too about, you coaching them through sports. Like my daughter, we got my daughter into soccer.
Okay.
And, she's 5 and she's going out in the soccer field. She's going and if they don't pass her the ball, she's pouting and getting all upset and getting teased. I'm like, come over here. Go out there and take the ball. You want it? Go get it. You know what I mean? Like you got to go out there and be tough. And it was so wild because I'm me and my wife were like total opposites, right? My wife is very assertive, you know what I mean? Like, she's very assertive, but that's one of the things that I love about her, you know what I mean? She's a very strong woman, very independent, very assertive. And that's like, I need that type of person for my kids, you know, when I thought about that. And me, I know myself, I'm very soft and loving, and I'm very, you know what I mean? Like,
it takes balance, bro.
You know what I mean? But I've noticed, especially with my daughter, a shift in that, like, I'm being a lot harder in a sense of, you know what I mean? Like, trying to show her and being that showing her how to be assertive, how to say enough for herself. And my wife has been more soft, you know what I mean? Like kind of like the roles switched. But that's having my daughter, made me, you know what I'm saying? Like that helped me grow in different ways that I never thought was possible. And that ties into like your song Daddy's Baby, which I was listening to, you know what I mean? Like you said that, your daughter's helped you grow and become, a better man and a better person. What are some of those things you feel like they forced you to change or made
Save
you grow?
my life, bro. Listen, man, if it wasn't for that, it'd just right, like the responsibility of not just being a role model, right? But I want to show my daughters what to look for in a man. Right? I have to exemplify it, right? So it's not just about, hey, look at me. It's about if I don't do this, right, I'm going to groom them in a manner to where they can make bad life decisions. I can't allow that, right? So, like, that's the weight of responsibility, especially, like, with girls, right? And I feel like, I have girls, my boy has boys, right? And we have this conversation, on the different, intricacies of how you parent, daughters and sons. And, my thing is both children need love, right?
Absolutely.
But it definitely takes both energies in the household, masculine and feminine, to provide them the emotional balance that they need. So a lot of the times, I'm not necessarily the disciplinarian, right? Because like they're scared of me, right? So my wife is, but I played a role where I try to build her confidence. I tell her she's a star every single day, both of them. You're a star. You're intelligent. I fill them with so much light and energy to the point where, like, if I'm ever not here, they're going to hear it in their head, right? Like, I want them to know that. That's the type of parent I want to be. I want to speak blessings upon my children. And this is what I encourage, with, the fathers in my circle, right? Not that you got to get all spiritual like that if you want to, but, like, speak good things into your kids. Build their confidence, right? And then, even like now, my daughter's going through a phase where, she's been spoiled, right? So she's a little selfish, right? And so she wants what she wants. So one time we went to the store, I told she gonna take a candy. I get into the car, she took the candy. I'm like, oh, you stole this shit? I'm like, yo, right? And I'm like, no, this is not what we do. Right? And like now I remember at a point where I got my ass whooped, right? But me and my mother had a conversation, and even some of the ways she said she dealt with me, she apologized for. She was like, yo, listen, Kenny, some of the things that, you experienced when I was the eldest, I learned from those things. So when I saw my siblings get away with shit, I'm like, yo, for real? Because if that was me, you would throw me through a wall, but whatever, right? She would say, listen, that type of stuff wasn't appropriate.
Right.
I was wrong for it, and as I'm correcting myself, I'm asking you to correct yourself, right? So I can hear my mother, so I couldn't hit her, right? I had to speak to her. I said, listen, part of life is not always getting what you want. There's going to be times where you're going to want something, and for whatever reason, you're not going to get it. Taking it, right? Right? Just taking it, especially when it comes to something that's not yours, that's not due to you, is not appropriate. You can't do this, right? You can't do this. I have higher expectations of you. I can't allow you to do this. That is stealing, right? Now, she doesn't know, and I can see her like, okay, listen, you made a mistake, right? This thing's worth $1. We brought it back. I said, hey, listen, blah, blah, blah. I think I get the dollar anyway, right? But the point of it is, as she got down on herself, was like, you're going to make mistakes. I don't want you to feel down. I want you to understand.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I want you to understand why I'm responding the way I am. And I am not even saying I'm I'm far from a perfect father, right? I'm just trying to be one where I won't result to like the generational curse of whooping the shit of our kids that, we probably experienced. I mean, one time we was playing Rock Fight, right? Okay, if I'm telling the story correctly, I wasn't playing Rock Fight. Someone threw a rock at me, I ducked. And it hit a BMW and they pinned it on me. That's really what happened, right? So the police come to my house. They hit my mom with the bill. She just looked at me. I'm like, all right. Right? Like, she don't say nothing. She don't speak. It's real quiet, right? And I'm like, hold on, this is not right. Then she went in the crib, like she in the kitchen, she like made some lasagna or something. I'm like, oh, she fed me. I'm like, hold on, yo. Right? She don't say nothing. I'm like, this don't make no sense. Went to bed. All of a sudden, she cracked that door, cuz. Yo, and let's just say that what unfolded was what.
Listen. You know what's so bug?
Like a $700 bill. She's like, "Yo, for real? You out here doing what?" And then again, Mama, I love you, right? This is the honest truth of the story, right? Again, we talked about that. She was like, "Listen, you had the police come to my door. Are you kidding me?" I'm like, right. But even again, the response to it, right? Like some of those things are generational curses. We don't necessarily have, throw our kid up against the wall or whip them with a belt, you know what I'm saying? Or inflict physical harm on them to discipline them. We do not have to do that. That is a slave mentality. And we don't even know it. We just been groomed into it because it was done to us. And I was listening to Immortal Technique. You mess with Immortal Technique?
No, I gotta.
Oh, you gotta get into Immortal Technique, man. He is not only like a dope hip hop musician, but like on this sort of topic, like he is a phenomenal speaker, well versed, right? And he was talking about it on, I believe it was Matt Hoffa's podcast. Again, sorry to drop another podcast that you enjoy, but it was a great talking point. And I didn't watch the entirety of the podcast, but he was bringing up how more fathers need to have conversation with their fathers. Like, where is that healing coming from? And where does the grandfather come in and say, "Hey, listen, son, Yes, I know I beat you. I'm sorry about that. I shouldn't have. But please don't beat your kids. To be honest with you, I just came home from Vietnam. I'm dealing with certain things and blah, blah, blah. Right? Whatever the story was, and I made some bad decisions. I'm asking for your forgiveness, right? That's where that train of thought came from. And I'm like, wow, where is that in the community? Where is like, hey, listen, son, I can't tell you how to be a father, and I know when this happened with you, this is what occurred, but I'm asking you to consider this, as someone who tell you I made a mistake. Those things have to take place. We have to have support for fathers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like you have to have other dads that are being dads at the same time as you, right? Or just understanding the complexity of what you're dealing with. So, you could have that sort of support. And mothers need the same thing. It takes a community.
Absolutely.
It comes back to that, right? Absolutely. And since we're just talking about fatherhood, that's why I'm just saying fathers at this point. But, mothers need support from other mothers, within the community, and vice versa. We have to be able to hold each other accountable. That's another huge part of it. Accountability comes from within. If we know, if we were a tribe, we was all taking care of our babies, we knew that something wasn't right, or this guy was hitting his kid, or this guy was a pedophile, blah, blah, whatever, we would rectify that situation because that cannot occur in the tribe.
Right.
And these are things that, I really hold dear to myself. So like you were talking about your circle and how, again, I was sharing with like, you can't be a good dad if you're not around me. It's just the way it has to be.
Absolutely.
It's straight up.
And it is about because I was laughing with you too because I had a similar story, man, with my mom, man. I was in the bathroom one time, right? I was a young kid, and I was playing with matches, right? And I dropped the match into the garbage can, went up in flames, right? So my mom come in and she threw it in and I'm sitting there like already cringe. I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, but ain't nothing happened. And again, the whole day went out. Like, too, it was the same. Listen, the whole day went. I was outside playing. I went over there, and in the middle of the night, she came in there and beat the brakes off me.
Yep.
Beat the brakes off me. I was sitting there shivering all the way till the morning, man. Just wondering when she's gonna come back. All she said was good night, and then left. And that was it. That was the end of that conversation. and like you said, we kind of groomed that. And you know what? Like I learned from that. You know what I mean? Like, and that's something that I don't want to do to my children. You know what I mean? Like I don't want them to fear me that way. I would much rather, you know what I mean, like them feel more pain or disappointment if I come to them and says, "Hey, I'm disappointed in you."
Right.
That made me upset. You know what I mean? Like to see that they upset me or let me down, caused them more pain than anything I could ever do physically to them.
Because I love you.
Right.
I want the best for you.
Right.
And then when you made this decision, it upset me because this is what you potentially expose yourself to.
Right. And having those conversations.
I'm here to protect you until you can protect yourself. And until that point, like, I'm daddy's just trying to look out for you. That's the tone. But again, it has been a blessing because even the time spent will keep you from doing other shit. Excuse my French. And I'm cool with being home and creating and being with my babies. And it's dope because my daughter, I have two, 3.5 and a 1-year-old. The eldest knows my music, so she knows Daddy's Baby. That's the one that's on.
That's all that. Yeah.
She knows the song. She be singing lyrics, but then I catch her singing other songs, and then I start to see her doing what I used to do, where when I at some point I don't know if I was that young, but I know I used to listen to songs over and over and memorize them, and then just walk around the house reciting them. And I did that. It got to a point where I was doing that with I don't know. I can't tell you a number. My mother said I was just listening to entire records and just rehearsing the entire record, right? Right? My daughter's doing that now, and I'm like, yo, you got to that, and I didn't even teach you to do that, right?
It's in the blood.
It's in the blood. And when you see that, you be like, God, I understand. Those are things you have to experience, and the light comes on. It's like, okay, now I understand. And then you also understand the responsibility, right, to groom that young person that has your energy because you know how you are.
Yeah.
So it's dope. And I think Daddy's Baby is a song that's going to be timeless. We started with an animated video for it. We're going to do a live action video for it. COVID got into the way of that, just how we wanted to get people together. But we're going to get a bunch of dads together, you know what I'm saying? We'll get the ice cream truck, cut up some watermelon, and go to the park somewhere, light the grill, let these kids run around, and just do what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, man. No, definitely. And it's I see that along with my daughter too. My daughter is my twin, man. I mean, like physically and just energy wise, like, you know, we'll go anywhere. Like we'll just be sitting there, and she's my biggest like promoter, man. Like we'll go into the park and she's like, "Hi, I'm Nyla, and this is my dad. He's Freddie Fox, and he has a show, and he makes T-shirts to make money so he can buy stuff." And like just go in. And if I pull out a camera in front, I'm like, "Baby, we recording. You ready?" She's like, "Yeah, okay." And she gets in motion, like, "Hey, make sure you like it." And I didn't teach her this stuff. Like I didn't teach her any of this. Like it's just not. And I'm like, "Oh my God!" Like
Confident.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing because I want her. And I say this all the time. For me, man, like I struggle to be myself, to be okay to be me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Growing up because of the, you know, society that we're in and being made fun of and all those things and just getting picked on. Like, I just thought it wasn't okay to be me. So I tried to, you know, fit into places I didn't belong. And that caused me a lot of depression and anxiety and sadness because, like, and I said this again over and over again, but Jim Carrey said it, you know, depression is your body saying it's tired of playing this character. You know what I mean? Like, and that's where I was at this point. And now, and like having my daughter and having my son, I was like, if I want them to be them, I got to be me. I got to show them how to do that.
Right.
You know, so I started really, you know, being okay and falling into line to who I am and who I want to be. And seeing that transition in my daughter is just an amazing thing. You know what I mean? Like, I was just, it's just what I'm doing is right. And those are the things that like you said, God talks to you in subtle ways.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and lets you know that you're doing the right thing. Right. You know what I mean? And big on your music because I know we come up here on time. But I mean, when it comes down to music and stuff like that, I mean, like I said, I love your flow. You know, your stories and everything about it, just so amazing how you put your songs together. Who would you say was your biggest influence in your career when it comes to the rap game?
Oh man, I am a major student, right? So a couple I could tell you, like we talked about Nas, right? Nas is someone I really aspired to learn from. Oh, sorry. Nas, Tupac, of course, you know, and I was a huge Me Against the World fan, you know, like before Tupac was angry, before, you know, the things that happened on Death Row took his energy a different direction. He was conscious, you know, talking about, you know, the young OGs and, you know, it's just the way he captured the human experience I was always a fan of. You know, Chino Excel, Crooked Eye, Big Pun, Cannabis, you know, all those elite level lyricists. But again, man, I've listened to pretty much all the greats, right? And I formed in taking things from all of them because I want to show that I understood the lesson. That's the type of student I am.
No, that's beautiful. And so I do want to play, like, we got one of your tracks here. It's coming up on your next project, right? It's called Spiritual, right?
Yes, Spiritual.
So just give us a little background about that before we play this real quick.
Yes, produced by Young Devontae. Shout out to Young Devontae, my man out of Europe. Ultimately, the song is dope. You can hear a lot of comic book references. I use everything within the cosmic library to prove my point, right? So when establishing my mythos around how I even approach me picking up my pen, you know, I'll pull from comic books, manga, the Bible, whatever, right? So when you listen to Spiritual, ultimately, I pull all these different references to show you that I don't care or fear anything. This journey that we're on is spiritual in nature. So when you're going to hear the comic book references, you're going to hear the punchlines, and you may get distracted by that, but the tone of it is the journey that we're on is already laid forth. There is nobody in this planet or universe that can stop what God has for me or you or what is about to happen. That's what Spiritual is about, so you can rock that.
Absolutely, man. So here we go, man. We got FNX, Spiritual.
Yeah. I just want to let y'all know that I'm not like these other dudes. I'm not your average African rapper.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I had a religion. I'm not Muslim or Christian. I'm just focused on wisdom. I told you that my vision was spiritual. I walk my faith in the spiritual. On God, see, I had no religion. I'm not Muslim or Christian. I'm just focused on wisdom. I told you that my vision was spiritual. See, I walk my faith in the spiritual. On God, yeah. See, it's really about money and power. Time's up, there's no room in your circle for cowards. This is for the ones who the serpent devoured. I have no lane, see this highway, your circuit is ours. The hood is hot and the diesel is sour. I spit like Mario when receiving a flower. I got a bunch of demons I need to devour and promise to bring balance to rapper receiving these powers. Finger snap, found my purpose and went to war. Hold a hammer the size of Thor and Avengers 4. These all the things I'll be remembered for. My flow was like a disaster movie Hans Zimmer was meant to score. The most lyrical one, I ain't scared to say it. I've been nice for so long, I write lyrics in Aramaic. I'm LeBron in the gym, y'all want me to lay up, but I'm shooting like Kobe to 81 on my way up. Coming off scale now.
Because we definitely want to go out and purge that, but I mean it's, and that's what I mean. Just the flow, the lyrics, the creativity, everything that you put there, and the meaning behind it is so powerful, man. Like so big ups on you and your craft, man. I mean, you're doing a wonderful thing. You got tons of skills, and like I said, definitely became one of my favorite rappers, man. I'm telling you, man, your flow is nasty, your songs is nasty, man. So just keep doing what you're doing. And this is coming up your upcoming project, right?
So the next project is Rise of the Phoenix. It's gonna be crazy. It is crazy. I'm sitting on a ton of music. And right now we're just figuring out which approach that we want. But it's all haymakers. And I can't wait for y'all to hear it. To be honest with you, it's like the universal frequency, conscious in nature. But during the universal frequency, I was very much in a space where I just had my daughter, and I was healing. This one is more direct, right? And I'm looking forward to you guys enjoying that. FNXmusic.com. The Real FNX is my TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Come holler at me, whatever. The Real FNX, check us out. And yeah, man, Rise of the Phoenix coming soon. Spiritual dropped. The next song is going to be So Sweet, featuring Fancy LaFleur and Khalik. I can't wait till y'all hear that. I got a couple joints of Cambada coming up. I got a lot. I got a lot going on. Yeah, man, I got a lot. I can't wait. I got to play some of this for you.
No, definitely, man. I would love to hear it, man. So we winding out here, man. I got two last questions for you, man. So, my first one is, in your life and everything you've been up to so far, right? What has been the best advice you've ever received?
I mean, the best advice I think I would like to give, right? If that regard is that, whenever you get that butterflies in your stomach and things get hard, the universe starts to apply pressure, just punch through that shit. That's what I would like to say. That just signifies that you are getting closer. Punch through that shit.
That's shout out to Will Smith. I'm quoting right now, but he said that the best things in life are located on the other side of fear.
Absolutely.
And it's just that too. When however you want to look at it, if you want to bring in God, like the universe or whatever and stuff like that, but that fear, that sense of being scared or uncomfortable or feeling is a test. It's trying to prevent you from getting to that joy.
Right.
You just gotta be strong enough to push through it, like you said, man, and really just get there because there's more coming. Right. And we've all been in. Like for myself is one of my biggest fears was starting this podcast, man. I was sitting on it for like 2 years. You know what I mean? Just one of like
knew what you had to do.
And I knew, like, I was just like, shit. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go for it. Like, you know what? I said, yo, I'm gonna give myself a deadline when I want to get started. I was like, oh, my dad's birthday's coming up. I said, yo, it's about dads. I want my first episode. I'm gonna be a tribute to my dad. You know what I mean? I reached out to my boy over and shout out to RC Productions, because I'm a shout out to every time because he made the intro to my show, which was a straight bang, which did like 24 hours, man. I said, this is the feel, and he was I guess another part of me was hoping that it would take a little bit longer because I was like, maybe I could delay it a little bit more, but he was quick with the turnaround time. And when I heard, I was like, this is fire. Like, I got no choice. I got no reason not to start now. And I haven't looked back since.
Don't.
Yeah, I mean,
listen, you know what you're supposed to do. Your inner self will talk to you. The God within you will talk to you. That's the advice. Everyone knows what they have to do, and they can try to tell you it. And you be like, oh, and people may say, oh, that's not going to work because it's not for them.
Right.
But you know what you can do and how you're supposed to do it.
Right.
Just embrace that.
Right, man. So that's some beautiful advice, man, and I think that everybody should heed that and stick to it. Shout out to everything that you're doing, and for people who want to get involved with the FNX Foundation, and how would they do that?
So you can go to the FNXFoundation.com. There's information about just our programming, who we are, why we do it. If you want to donate, right now we're doing a Hometown Love holiday food drive for 2021. So it's like our 4th or 5th year doing this. So we're raising awareness for for child hunger. We're collecting monies and or non-perishable, unexpired canned goods or box goods, and we're gonna, deliver that food in person before the Christmas holiday. So just looking to share those blessings. So FNXmusic.com or the FNXFoundation.com. I swear to God, you can see me in the streets. He's like, yo, I want support. We will figure it out, right? That's what I'm on. If you hit me, you're like, yo, listen, I got a box of food. I will drive to you and get it, because it's important.
You're absolutely well, thank you so much for everything that you do for the community. I mean, it's so important to have people in your position and doing what you do. And giving back to them and inspiring that hope, because like you said, going back to like comic books and everything that you pull from. I'm a huge Avatar: The Last Airbender. You know what I mean? I think there's so many life lessons in there. And one of the biggest ones that I hold true and everyone was in the Tales of Ba Sing Se, when Uncle Iroh says to somebody, although it's always great to believe in oneself, a little help from others is a true blessing. And that's what you're doing, man. You're giving everybody a little bit of hope. And really, really blessing them a lot. So bless you in everything that you do. Thank you for coming down on my show and sitting down for me. And as always, man, like I always say, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, your big brother loves you. Stay blessed, everybody.
Good night, y'all. We love you.